Je luistert naar Makkinga Moves, de podcast voor NPO Radio 2 Soul en Jazz, waarin ik, Andrew Makkinga, namens de NTR het land intrek. Op zoek naar de nieuwste muziek en de verhalen daarachter op de podia en festivals. In 2 afleveringen neem ik je mee naar Rockit Festival in de Oosterpoort in Groningen. Het festival ontleent zijn naam aan Herbie Hancock's gelijknamige monsterhit uit 1983. Dit nummer was destijds baanbrekend als mix van funk, jazz, hip-hop, dance en een vleugje rock. Rockit presenteert elk jaar artiesten die een nieuw sterrenstelsel willen betreden door jazz als uitgangspunt te nemen, maar veel verder gaan dan dat. In deze 2 edities van Makkinga Moves stel ik een aantal van deze artiesten aan je voor. In deze tweede aflevering hoor je gesprekken die ik had met de Finse saxofonist Linda Fredriksson, de Koreaanse drummer Sun Mi-hong, de Turkse gitarist Timuçin Şahin en je hoort natuurlijk heel veel live muziek. Timuçin Şahin is werkelijk waar een artiest van de buitencategorie. Wat een interview zou worden, dat zou gaan over hoe hij als tiener begon met zijn gitaar en eigenlijk een virtuoso gitarist werd in de jazzscene. Geboren in Turkije, immigreerde naar Nederland om zijn studie jazzgitaar te vervolgen en vervolgens een PhD ontving in de compositie in New York University, de stad waar je allemaal wilt zijn, werd eigenlijk een college van iemand die mij meenam in een wereld die veel verder gaat dan het alleen maar maken van muziek. Gedachten delen over waarom muziek er überhaupt is en hoe wij ons ertoe verhouden. Geniet, tenminste, ik heb ervan genoten van mijn gesprek met Timuçin Şahin. Timuçin, let's start with the Netherlands connection. So we're in Groningen. Did you ever play in Groningen when you lived in the Netherlands?
I did. So I lived in the Netherlands from 1992 till 2005, and I played in Oosterpoort, I think once or twice. And I came to Groningen Conservatory with New York Comes to Groningen after I moved to New York. So I know the city a bit. I love this place.
Yeah. How did you end up in the Netherlands?
Music. Basically, I wanted to study, and then I had a Dutch girlfriend back in the day, so I ended up here, and then I.
So we're talking when?
1991, 1992. Yeah. So 2005, I moved to New York. I moved to New York, and then I stayed there till end of 2018, and I relocated myself to back in Turkey. Since then, so I'm in Turkey right now.
So you've been a traveler in a musical universe, which is actually the same, you could say, for Rockit Festival, named for Herbie Hancock's song The Rockit, a universe that exists of artists who take jazz as a departure point, but create their own universe. How does your universe look?
Well, it's evolving. It's still evolving, and the greatest thing about this music is if you get out of the musical explanations, musical terms, and then you actually reach out to people and then explore what kind of geography, how it impacted the sound world, and then create a wall of sound with that. So that's amazing. For example, today, me and the band I have today with Jaron Vroom and Glenn Godum Jr. is like we're going to play for the first time. We just rehearsed today, so I embrace these kind of ontmoetingen. Yeah. These kind of explorations is definitely the strongest part of this music.
Take me back to when you were a younger man and how you found the guitar, or the guitar found you before you started all these physical but also musical journeys.
Oh, it actually started very intuitively. I didn't have a musical background. I started very late. I think I was like 17 or something when I picked up the guitar, and I played rock music. Yeah, so I played try to play some Zeppelin, Hendrix, and then later on Eddie Van Halen kind of thing. And then I found myself when I was 19 studying at the conservatory in Rotterdam, then later on in Amsterdam. So it went pretty quick. the connection was very strong. You know, back then we did not have all these gadgets and distractions, so our imagination was really ahead of us. So I could picture myself, you know, playing, etc. And the guitar was a magnetic area for me. It was like I always felt like a kid in a sandbox, 2 years old. You know, so still it kind of has the same impact.
But so I'm trying to understand this. Yeah, you're 17. You pick up a guitar. It didn't fall on your head. And then how do you find out that you're actually good, and then decide to rapidly evolve yourself into somebody who wants to not only play, but study that instrument you just picked up yesterday?
That's the magnetic part of that. It's still, I'm still taken by that idea nowadays. You know, I don't think I can make that jump right now, but I think in younger ages you're much bolder and stuff, you know. So I don't know. It remains. I can't really point my finger on a certain thing, you know. It's like a moment. You know, it's just the feeling, the sound, and whoever I was listening and not really watching it. Look, I was in Turkey. I was in a boarding school, so I didn't have the exposure. Like I could see some bands, etc., but it was very oral. I was like listening to radio, and one day I was in the dormitory. I was in a boarding school. I was listening to John Coltrane's Giant Steps record. Mr. PC was playing, and I said, "Oh, this is amazing! Like I don't know what this is." The same year, I think Pat Metheny's Question and Answer album came out, so I couldn't really like figure out what is this. You know, it wasn't that I like it or not. I was just taken by the sound world.
But so before 17 you never played?
I played maybe like a couple of chords on the beach just to, you know, socialize. And
but then when do you decide that who told you were good?
Nobody, actually. I mean, I was in look, those years in Izmir it's kind of a musical desert. So I had a couple of people who showed me a few things, and then the year later I went to Ankara. I studied there a little bit, but then I really made up my plan for coming either to United States or to Netherlands. And then
you had your girlfriend.
Yeah. So you know, I came here, and then I stayed here for a little long time, like 13 and 14 years. Holland is very important for me.
And you continued to study. You wrote your PhD. I mean, this is why I was drilling you on finding the instrument. I mean, you took things to another step. There's many musicians that just go out and play. Why did you do that?
I think it's this. I mean, there is no limitation in music. When you look at music, the sound is a very liberated phenomena. So, like I'm talking right now, and there's nothing can stop you hearing me. It's so powerful. There's no physical. So there really I don't see the point of the end of exploration until I leave this earth with the sound. Like just the activity of creating a sound is already amazing, and then making music with that is. So I modified my instrument. I used different tunings. I added another neck. So, and I studied classical composition, contemporary composition. So like in 1950s, that sound world really kept me, like people like Edgar Varese, John Cage, Morton Feldman, and the bebop postulation around that area, that the African American musical utterance was very strong. So those 50s in New York, I always wanted to explore. And if you go to New York now, it's still a magnetic field. You know, like everybody wants to be there. Especially when I moved in 2005, it was a hub.
What did you write your thesis about?
My thesis about potentialities of compositional structure. Basically, I analyzed John Coltrane, Morton Feldman, and John Cage next to each other. So and also it's a little bit intervention on the idea of avant-garde, how a black composer and a creator can, or their music can be discussed next to a concert music, like a classical music. So it's basically structural potentialities. Like a lot of people try to find sounds through their lives, but these people had a special way of moving those sounds. They were, especially Cage and Feldman, they were really really curious on experiencing how to move those sounds, like they saw the inner architecture in a musical organism. And John Coltrane did it like intuitively with different kind of instrumentation. So basically, I analyzed the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost from the Meditations album of Coltrane, Crippled Symmetry by Feldman, and Prepared Piano Pieces by John Cage.
And after all these years of deep study, what have you taken from that in developing who you are as an individual, but also as an artist who records himself?
One thing is, so I stopped writing music for a while. There's also a period that I stopped playing and I just wrote music. So, now I think music became the ultimate healing and rescuing point for me. Every time I pick up a guitar, and then the awareness of space and sound is very strong. So I'm still baffled with how that works, basically, and how someone can internalize and how actually music responds to multifaceted things. Like, let's say, acoustics, they don't really respond to everything we feel or we experience as music. Like music is more about ourselves than that itself. So, like the same music can sound different to everybody. So that is also, it's a little bit...
That's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep. You could go even further and say it's like God, if he exists, that he has to feel himself by experiencing his creation through his people, or like the music understands that it's there because people listen, feel, react to it in a different way.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't have to go further as God. Like, think about something like I have tinnitus, for example, like that thing, and that sound is as real as every sound that I hear.
You really have it?
Yeah, I always have it since like 25 years. So shall I not consider that? Or sometimes you have, for example, earworms, right? You listen to music a lot, and then you go, that sound doesn't exist, but it's existing in your head. So that level of temporality or the consciousness, it's like, what you going to do with that? Because acoustics and the science is answering actually a part of what we know. If you go to animals, they hear much wider than us. Like dogs hear like 30 times more than we do. Who knows what they have among themselves, So compared with them, we're kind of deaf. So these are all incredible stuff. And then
I mean, I need to rewind this and really, because you went too fast for me, and I just have to be honest. But there's some nuggets being dropped. But I have to ask you about the record, because I don't want to keep you here. You still have a show to play, and this is fascinating. But Funk Poems for Bird, a homage to Charlie Parker, again paying tribute to those giants on whose shoulders we all stand.
Right.
Tell me about this record and the importance of it for you.
So the thing is, for example, we look at John Coltrane, Cecil Taylor, Ornette Coleman from a different kind of lens than we look at Bird. These are avant-gardists for us, but Bird is not looked. He's to a certain extent, he influenced everybody who's anybody on the musical planet. But Bird died when he was 34. And he wanted to study with Edgar Varese. He loved the music of Igor Stravinsky. So as a composer and as a jazz musician who studied, who actually don't see any kind of demarcations between improvisation and composition, for me, the lines are blurred for a long time. Those lines almost do not exist. So I actually wanted to pay homage to Bird because, during my thesis and studies, I know I have all these interests from his own voice that he says, I want to study with this French composer. He's like, he always wanted to do it. He looked further. He would not play the same thing. So the way the culture actually operated is like we took those sound worlds and then created a culture about that and then teach it to our children. But actually we don't touch it. We don't dare to, it's like, which is understandable, which is also necessary to a certain extent. But we have to also highlight his intellectual legacy.
And yes, and it's like, sorry for interrupting, but it's like annotation. It's like you have to add to the work, and that means sometimes you do touch it, you do revisit it. You don't leave it there just to.
You get inspired by it, and then that inspiration would lead you to create other kind of works. Also, like his intellectual legacy is, he might not use a lot of intellectual or fancy words, but he's a very deep thinker and intellectual. So actually, I would like to, in the record and during the interviews, I actually told about how he wanted to study with Juarez, how he, of course, that lesson he never got because he got the overdose, and then Juarez was in for a premiere in Paris back then. But yeah, he was just 34. If you can imagine what he could have done, he wouldn't play the same things. He would have incredibly evolved. So wow. For me, he's the first avant-gardist who made that jump. And after that, Coltrane, and they actually opened the door of liberation of sound for us. So we should not stop.
Thank you for this history lesson. Thank you so much. And it seems that you're advocating for more study of music.
I'm a student of music for life.